to our toolbar. We're going to click on our Cloud Shell icon, and we're going to see here we don't have a Cloud Shell instance configured. Now I'm going to skip ahead to when this is fully configured and I can start using it. But if you need to, please refer to the previous lesson on using Azure Portal and Azure Cloud Shell so that you can get familiar with configuring this, because you have to create a storage account, and this storage account has to be named unique globally using the storage account naming convention, and you have to create a file share to map to this Cloud Shell instance so that we can use it. So I'm going to skip ahead to when all of that's done. So I'll see you in just a moment. All right, Gurus, so we're back with the Azure Cloud Shell fully configured here. And as you may notice by the blue screen, I'm inside of the PowerShell environment here for the Cloud Shell. So if you're not, please switch over to the PowerShell environment at this time so you can more easily follow along with this demonstration. Once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and clear up our display by running the clear command here and pressing enter. So this is so we can bring our command prompt up to the top of the Cloud Shell and just have better visibility about what we're typing here. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get some information about Azure resources, such as the resource group here inside of our Azure Cloud Sandbox using the Azure CLI. So we're going to type AZ group list. Now, this is going to list out our resource groups. And this is a very bash-esque type of command here with the Azure CLI, right? It's going to provide us very bash-style commands that we see with Linux environments. So we'll hit enter here, and this is going to return that information in form of a JSON body here. And it gives us information about our resource, such as its resource ID, the location, the name of the resource, and various other properties of this resource here. And we can get back information about our resources and perform specific operations and get JSON body return about what happened for those resources. Now let's do the equivalent with the PowerShell commandlets. Let's clear up our display here, and let's type get AZ resource group. Now with the Azure PowerShell commandlets, we can tab complete as we type the command, and it will suggest to us what it thinks we're trying to do. And we can also type attack and hit tab, and it will show us some command parameters that we can use with this commandlet. So we're not going to use any here. We're just going to hit enter, and we're going to go back some information, again, about the same resource group. Now, something cool we can do with the Azure PowerShell is, because it's object-oriented, we could save the resource group object we just got information about to a variable here. We can save it to a PowerShell variable using the $, and we'll name our variable RG, and then we'll type our same command here, get AZ resource group, and we'll hit enter here, and this is going to save that object to our resource group variable. Now, in the case in which we may have various resource groups, it would save all of these resource groups as their own object inside of this variable, and we can iterate through that because it is object-oriented. And because it's object-oriented, we could call the variable, and we can get information about the variable, but we can also get properties about the variable. For example, we could get the ID of this resource group here by typing in resource ID and hit enter. We get back the resource ID of the resource group. Let's go ahead and clear up our display here. And now we're going to do something a little less trivial. We're going to use the Azure CLI here to create a VM inside of Azure and configure it and deploy it. So we're going to start off by typing AZ VM create, and we're going to use a backtick as our escape character to jump down to the next line and make this command more readable. We're going to specify our resource group using this command option here. We're going to call our resource group. We're going to call it by name here. Backtick escape to the next line. We're going to specify a location. We'll go ahead and put it in the same location as our resource group here by calling a location from the variable. And then we're going to specify the name here. We're going to call this the VM demo 001. And then we're going to specify the image that we want to use here for this VM. I'm going to use Ubuntu LTS. And we could use other things like Windows and various other distros that are available for images for virtual machines. But in this case, I'll just use Ubuntu LTS here. And then the next thing that we're going to do is skip down the next line and provide our admin username here. I'm going to specify mine as Cloud Chase, skip down to the next line, and I'm going to generate some SSH keys. And then I'm going to skip down to the next line, and I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to type no wait, because I'm not going to wait around for this command to complete here. I want to just get my prompt back. Now, if we didn't want to get our prompt back and we wanted to wait around, we could just remove this command option here. Now, generating SSH keys here is going to save the SSH keys locally to the Azure Cloud Shell. If you were on your local machine, it would save them locally to your machine, and it would give you the private key that you could use to authenticate into that virtual machine using the SSH key and the admin username that you set. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and this is going to run off and deploy our virtual machine for us by sending this command over to Azure Resource Manager. Azure Resource Manager is going to find the correct resource provider, and it's going to perform these operations on behalf of the Azure Resource Manager with that resource provider. Now let's go ahead and clear up our display here. And the next thing that we're going to do here is run another commandlet to get some information about what storage account is mapped with our Cloud Shell. Maybe we want to know what storage account we're using for this Cloud Shell instance. And we're going to do this and kind of wait for some of those other resources that we just deployed with the virtual machine to finish deploying. And this will allow us to buy some time. So we'll go ahead and type in our command here, git-cloud drive, and this is going to return information about the storage account and the file share that are mapped to our Cloud Shell instance here. As we see here, I have my storage account, and you could use this to perform specific operations. Maybe you want to delete all the resources in your environment, but you want to only leave specific resources like this storage account that you have for your Cloud Shell instance. Well, you could script those things. Now, at this point, we're going to go ahead and clear up our display, and we're going to type git az resource, and then we're going to pipe this command to format as a table here. And we're going to pipe one commandlet into another commandlet to perform an operation to change around the results here. And what we're going to see is all of the resources that we just create in a table format here. You see we have multiple resources. We have a disk, a virtual machine, network interface, NSG, virtual networks, public IP, and of course our storage account for our Cloud Shell instance. Now at this point, let's go ahead and take a look at what has happened in the portal here so we can get a visual representation of our work. We'll go ahead and minimize the Cloud Shell here. We'll click refresh on our resource group here, and we'll see all the resources that we've created here. So we see that we can use the Azure CLI and the Azure PowerShell commandlets to perform specific operations to create and manage Azure resources. And this is a really handy way of programmatically interacting with our Azure environments. Now I'm going to do something that you don't have to do because the Azure Cloud Sandbox is ephemeral, but I'm going to go ahead and actually call a one-liner here that's going to download a script from the GitHub repository. And this script is going to be something that we can use to clean up our environments if you want to check it out and see how you can use it to clean up environments. Now, just keep in mind, this is something that is destructive, so please don't run this in production. And you'll see that comment inside of the GitHub repository in the commands.txt that's attached for the resources of this video. Now, if I type ls here, you're going to see I have that cleaner script here. And if I type code and type cleaner script, it's going to open up the cleaner script here for us, and it's going to tell us what it's going to do. It's going to download this JSON file. It's going to remove everything, and it's going to use the Azure CLI commands for deploying a Azure Resource Manager file. And as you guessed it, it's going to remove all of our resources here. So we'll go ahead and close the code editor here. We're going to clear up our display, and we're going to call this script here. Hit enter. It's going to go off, and it's going to clean up all of our resources here inside of the Azure Cloud Sandbox. Now, I'm not going to wait around for this to finish here. We're going to go ahead and make our way back to the slides for our key takeaways for this lesson. All right, Gurus, congratulations on following along in the demonstration.